Good evening and welcome to the Foxborough Zoning Board of Appeals, March 21, 2024 meeting. This meeting and the public hearings we will be considering is being broadcast and recorded by Foxborough Cable Access. So the first item we have on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from January 18, 2024. Anybody have any questions relative to them?
Nope. No, they look great, Diana.
Okay, a motion?
I move to accept the minutes from January 18th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Approved. Second item deals with, actually the next three items deal with comprehensive permits that we've previously approved. The first one concerns the Wyman Village comprehensive permit, and that was approved by this board in 2015. There are two provisions in that decision that relate to alterations or reconstructions or extensions or structural changes to any of the homes in the Wyman Village development. One is section K1 and the second is section M1. And essentially both prohibit any amendment of our decision or any extension, reconstruction, or alteration to a home without our approval in accordance to the applicable provisions of the state regulations. Now, in addition, the homeowners association documents for the Wyman Village development provide that if a homeowner wishes to make a structural change to such individual's dwelling, and that includes placing solar panels on the roof of that individual's home, there has to be approval internally and then approval from this board. If the individual is a trustee of the development, that individual needs to get 10 homeowners to approve the proposal. And if the individual is not a trustee, then the individual only needs the approval of the development, the homeowners association's trustee. Mr. Cooke is before us tonight with a proposal to place solar panels and related equipment on the roof of his dwelling. And my understanding is that you are not a trustee, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we do have the authorization from the trustee to place the panels on the rooftop. So what we need to determine is whether this is a substantial or an insubstantial modification of the permit that we issued. If it's a substantial modification, then the matter has to go to a public hearing. If it's insubstantial, then it's approved tonight, and he can proceed with the construction of the panels once he gets a building permit from Mr. Shippey. We have considered two relatively similar proposals for other Wyman Village homeowners in the past. One was to enclose the deck. The second was to place to allow a hot tub to be placed on the home's patio. And in both cases, we determined that the changes were insubstantial. So I'll leave it to the board for any questions for Mr. Cooke, and certainly if you have any comments you wish to make, please do so.
Okay.
How many or what is the size of the solar panels?
So they're basically calculated and measured based on the sun exposure, and I went with Tesla after long research, making sure it's just legitimate, and they have all the needs and the knowledge and the experience, and based on long research, I realized that they know what they're doing. And my unit is at the end, which is I have the most exposure to the sun, which made me a very good candidate for the sun. So basically, and they have to meet the requirement with the town plus the safety regulations of the fire department. So they do calculate and estimate percentage of the usage of the electricity that I've been using for the past couple years, and they get the appropriate settlement of the size that they're gonna use for the rooftop, plus all the requirement that I earlier mentioned. So they get you up to close to 100% around that number, like whether it's like 105% of what you've been like your usual or normal usage, and provide the panels that's appropriate. And they basically they're gonna use maybe just under just over 2/3 of the roof to place the panels in the front and in the back, and this is gonna be around probably 25 panels. They're using the most like modern tech, the very sleek design that's just placed right over the shingles. And the Wyman Village is fairly new, so it was built in 2018 by Joe Lynch, who's very well known. After reviewing everything, I feel confident to move forward with this project.
Okay, thank you.
Maureen?
No questions.
Kurt, any questions?
No.
Eric? Okay. So what I'd like to propose to the board is the following motion: to determine pursuant to 760 CMR 56.0511A that the requested modification to the comprehensive permit is insubstantial with reference to the factors that are set forth in 760 CMR 56.074.
So moved.
Second?
Second? Again, it's just the three of us voting. So all in favor? Okay. So we'll write up a decision. As I mentioned to you earlier, we'll write up a decision. We'll sign it. Should happen next week. You'll need to file that in the Registry of Deeds in Dedham. And when you apply for your building permit, provide a copy of that to Mr. Shippey.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And again, if you have any questions, either Mr. Shippey or Diana can
Okay,
answer them.
Thank you so much.
Okay? Thank you.
appreciate it.
The second item has to do with 119 Morse Street. As I mentioned to the board last week by email, I was notified that the case has been settled. I was hopeful that by tonight we would know the specifics of the settlement, because some aspects of it will require modification of the decision. Unfortunately, that's not the case yet. Don't have that information. I suspect they're probably still negotiating the written terms of the settlement agreement. So probably sometime soon, hopefully no later than our meeting in April, we'll be able to make the appropriate modifications and put that matter to rest.
Great.
So the third item has to do with 55 Walnut Street. And Betsy and Mike, do you want to come forward?
Hey, everyone.
Good evening. So section A13-1 of the permit says the applicant shall submit to the board prior to any construction or site development activities, 1, final architectural plans prepared, signed, and sealed by an architect with valid registration in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then it goes on to say, at a regularly scheduled board meeting, the land use director or the designee thereof will provide the board with an analysis of whether the final plans conform to the conditions of approval, and shall include requested comments, if any, from relevant town boards, commissions, and officials to inform that report. Per my request, Paige Duncan, who is, in addition to town manager, still land use director, designated Scott, much to his satisfaction and happiness, as the designee. And in speaking with Scott yesterday, I thought the easiest way to handle this matter would be to go through the list of items that are required to be performed and satisfied before building permits can be issued, and have Scott, confirm that. So Those conditions are set forth in section C2 of the agreement. And the first item is that the comprehensive permit decision must be recorded with the Registry of Deeds.
Yes.
Second is that evidence of final approval from the subsidizing agency as required by the project eligibility letter and regulations has to be provided.
Yes.
3, submit to the board and the land use director certified copies of the regulatory agreement and monitoring services agreement for the project. Execution and recording of the regulatory agreement shall be complete prior to the issuance of any building permit. 4, to obtain written confirmation from the DPW director that the necessary public water and sewer capacity is available for the project.
You can answer. No, yes.
Yes.
Yes? Good. He wasn't designated. 5, obtain and file with the building commissioner a copy of all required federal, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and Town of Foxborough licenses, permits, and approvals required to commence construction.
Yes.
6, obtain all necessary electrical, plumbing, and other permits required to begin construction on the building for which the building permit is sought.
Yes.
7, submit all final construction-level engineering, architectural, and landscaping plans for the construction of the project.
Yep.
8, sign and seal applicable sheets of the final plans by the professional land surveyor of record and the professional civil engineer of record, as well as mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineers.
Yes.
9, pay to the town the required water and sewer connection fees and infiltration inflow mitigation fees in accordance with the then current Town of Foxborough DPW fee schedule. Yes?
Yes.
It's a good thing you're here tonight.
Thanks, Chris.
10, submit to the Town of Foxborough Fire Department a plan showing the location of all fire safety equipment in accordance with NFPA Standard 241.
Yes.
And I guess the fire chief has approved that?
Yes.
Okay. And 11, submit a sign application to the building commissioner and include the location and details of every exterior sign to be installed as part of the project.
Yes.
Okay. So from your perspective, everything that is required prior to your issuance of building permits?
Yes, everything's been satisfied. We did a review on it. We actually approved the permits. They're just waiting on payment, and I will be issuing the permits as soon as the payment is made.
Did you bring your checkbook, or?
Well, we're getting
soon.
we're getting close. Our closing's what, in probably about 2 or 3 weeks, and we're just once that happens, that's when we'll cut the check and
And
We'll give
we're
it a-
actually waiting for one funding approval.
Right.
So they could possibly even be ready next week. So
Right.
as soon
Yeah.
as that funding approval's ready, we'll be ready to go.
So you figure that either beginning of April, you'll probably start construction, or maybe even
Earliest
early?
would be the 27th
earliest would be the 27th. Yeah.
of March,
Okay.
and maybe a week or so after that would be the latest, so. And we did send the notice to the abutters
Right.
about the start could be as soon as the 27th.
Yeah. That was also part of the permit. That
Yep.
we had to notify them at least 7 days prior. So
And I know you've met with them
Yes.
we had a
recently,
meeting.
so-
Yeah,
Okay.
and that went well. Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Chris, as long as you're here, do you have any questions for them, or?
Nope, we're good. The intersection sewer project has gone out to bid. We have contracts, should be in place by potentially end of next week, and we'll begin construction. So the sewer and intersection projects will be underway shortly.
Wow.
So
That's great.
Now, as far as the signal, has that gone up for a bid as well, do you know?
that's part of the project.
That's part of your project?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we have that and the sewer.
Okay, great. Good. Any other questions?
No?
You didn't have to come all this way. I told you you could have done
No,
by
it's
Zoom,
okay.
Okay.
but thank you.
Better to be available, right? And then on the screen, so.
So we're looking forward to,
Deja vu.
looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good night.
Okay, the time being 7:10 PM, we have the request of the Town of Foxborough pursuant to the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning for 1, special permits and findings under sections 5.3.1 and 5.3.5 to allow off-street parking in the property's front yard and to allow lot coverage of 73%, where not more than 70% is permitted. And 2, a variance under section 10.2.2.3 to allow the construction of a canopy over the property's motor vehicle fueling facility that is set back 42.4 feet from the property's front yard line, where 50 feet is required. Each requested in connection with the reconstruction, extension, alteration, or structural change of or to the Department of Public Works facility at 70 Elm Street. Property is located in the limited industrial district and is not in any restricted overlay district. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Thank you. By way of introduction, I'm Chris Gallagher. I'm the Director of Public Works. I have Lance Del Piore. He's the Assistant Director and Town Engineer. And we have Elena Compter here from Weston and Sampson as our Project Manager. Just a little bit about the project itself, and then I'll let Elena get into the details. The project itself, we have an existing garage of 12,000 square feet. We are looking to put on an expansion of that garage that'll be roughly 11,400 square feet in size. So in essence, doubling the size of the space that we currently have. Really, this is listed as a DPW project everywhere in town, but really hits everybody, all other departments. So it's really a town-wide project we have. The space that we're building out will primarily be used for our mechanics. So currently they're in a space, the existing garage was built in 1960s, some modifications here and there between now and then, but really nothing major. So we have definitely outgrown that space, and we are looking for some additional space, really to bring the mechanics into a space that meets today's industry standards. Along with the building itself, there's some site conditions that'll change. The bus location where the buses are currently parked will be relocated on the existing site. They'll move further away from the existing building. The fuel island, which is the only fuel island for the town, so everybody, school buses, police, fire, DPW, facilities, building, everybody who has a town vehicle fills up there, gasoline and diesel. Those are underground storage tanks that are 31 years old. The dispensers and the pumps themselves are probably as old as that. So those are getting pulled out of the ground, which is a good thing because it pulls us out of the underground storage tank regulations through the state, puts them above ground. One of the special permits we're looking for is for the canopy over that new fuel island. Some of the other things that are going on with the project itself, we have a wash bay will take up one of these 6 bays. So currently our practice is we wash our trucks outside, school buses outside. They go into the storm drains, which we're trying to move away from. So this will bring us into our stormwater regulation. Lance has been doing inspections for the last 4 years on the site per our stormwater requirements, and that's one of our big pain points is that we don't have a facility inside connected to the sewer system to properly wash our vehicles. Along with that, we'll have 5 bays for the mechanics to move into. We're going to relocate a lot of the equipment from our lifts, and some of our existing equipment will move over. So not everything's being bought new. We're going to reuse a lot of the equipment we have. To that, we've gone through planning board. We have their approval as well at this point in time for a site plan. And with that, I'm going to turn over the details of the special permits to Elena so she can discuss those topics, and then we'll have a conversation.
Sure. If I may, I'd like to share my screen and just so we have a visual to look at as we're discussing. Let's see, share. Did it work? Can't tell.
Are you on the Zoom meeting?
I think so. Is it a different Zoom meeting from?
You have to be on the Zoom meeting to share the screen.
I think you're on the wrong Zoom meeting.
Oh, am I in the wrong Zoom meeting? I didn't realize there was a different sign-in for the planning board and the zoning board.
Oh, yeah. So
We
you
were
gotta
here
go to the-
last week for the planning board, and I think I went to wrong one. Let's see.
And actually, while you're trying to get on, let me just read an email that I got from Gabriella Jordan, who's the Town of Foxborough staff planner, in which she indicated at the planning board meeting held on March 14, 2024, the board voted unanimously to grant site plan review approval to the proposal for the expansion of the DPW garage and other site improvements. The official approval letter will be forthcoming in the next few days.
All right, well, I think we found the right Zoom. Let me sign out of the incorrect one. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about. All right, so Chris did a great introduction. I'm just gonna do a really high level, show you guys what we're doing, and then we can discuss the special permits and the variance that we are requesting. So the project is at the location of 70 Elm Street, the location of the existing DPW. If you guys are familiar with the site, it is on Elm Street frontage. There is a I-95 behind it. There is a railroad right-of-way on one side, and some residences to the east of us. So this is the existing survey. As you can see, there are 4 main buildings at the DPW site. The administrative building is on the left side, next to the railroad right-of-way. The main mechanical bay space all next to it, and then the 2 buildings in the back is a salt shed and a vehicle storage building. This is our proposed site plan. I have overlaid in the blue color the proposed addition. This is going to be the 5 new maintenance bays and 1 vehicle wash bay that's going to be in the front with the mezzanine. So it's essentially going to be 2 levels. The entrance to it is going to be from the side, and then the fuel island, which is currently will have to be relocated because of this new addition. So it's generally in the same direction, but it's just going to be really centered in between the building and the road, allowing access on both sides for fuel and operation. Also, as Chris mentioned, the parking lot for the buses is going to be shifted a little bit to the right to really allow the construction of this additional building. And the site overall is going to get a couple new upgrades, new paving, some utility upgrades. We're going to next page. We will also do a comprehensive upgrade to the stormwater infrastructure on site to make sure that it complies with the current Massachusetts regulations for stormwater treatment. A few other landscape improvements are going to spruce up mostly the frontage of the property with a couple small shrubs and giving a little bit of a buffer to the parking area from the street. And this is just really a floor plan showing the existing maintenance garage and the proposed addition. As Chris mentioned, it's about approximately the same size as the existing building. And this is just a elevation view. And a 3-dimensional isometric view. So this is looking from Elm Street, really from the corner. You could see the existing building, the admin building further away, and this is the taller new addition. So we are here today asking for 1 variance and 2 special permits. So the variance has to do with, and I'm going to go back to the site plan. The variance has to do with the canopy over the proposed fuel island. Right now, there is a 50-foot front yard setback required for the limited industrial zone, and we are encroaching into the setback by approximately 7.6 feet. In addition to this, we are asking for 2 special permits. Those are both existing non-conforming, one being parking in a front yard for limited industrial zone if it's adjacent to residential, which we are abutting residential on the east side. No parking is allowed in the front yard. This is an existing condition that DPW, is doing right now. We are improving it slightly by adding about 5-foot buffer along the frontage of Elm Street. Right now, actually, if you can see in a light gray, the parking is extending a little bit into the Elm Street right away. And our second special permit is for the lot coverage. 70% is allowed by the bylaws. The existing site covers approximately 76 and change % of the lot with man-made structures or paving. And in the proposed conditions, we're going to improve it slightly, but it's still going to be over the 70% requirement. So I believe we are 73% change. And I will welcome any questions you might have.
So a couple questions that I have. On the canopy over the fuel island, is there like fire suppression equipment that's included in that?
I don't believe it's on the canopy itself.
I spoke with Deputy Larissy, and he spoke with Chris, and yes, it is planned to have a fire suppression system
Okay.
on it. I think that's governed by the state.
Okay.
So it is required, and I think Chris confirmed that it is getting installed.
Okay, good. How do you go from 76 to 73 lot coverage when you're adding a new building area?
So I think that's really based on addition of the landscape areas along the frontage. And also if I go back to landscape plan, it's a little bit easier to see. So we are adding some landscape areas throughout the site and really expanding the buffer along the frontage that's currently, doesn't have any buffer right now.
Okay. Anybody else?
I do have a question. So what is the current distance from the front lot line to the gasoline fueling equipment? And then what is proposed? I know we're talking about the canopy, but I'm
So
just
the existing fuel island doesn't have a canopy. So I can measure it from, I guess, the pump, if that's, if
Yes,
that will
that would
answer
be
your
great.
question. So we can quickly measure that. So it looks like from the pump, it's close to 70 feet.
Okay.
So measuring it in the same way from the pump to the property line for the proposed fuel island is going to be 57 feet, so about close to 60. But because of the canopy that overhangs further into the front yard.
Okay, thank you.
So in other words, the fuel line without the canopy, the proposed fuel island without the canopy would
Correct, it would be compliant with the,
comply.
The current laws for the canopy, for above-ground fuel, it requires a canopy? Or is that?
It does not.
It does not?
No, we could have gone without it. A little bit for personnel fueling up at all hours and
Sure.
and weather conditions, as well as adding the fire suppression system to it. Like we said, the current system, fueling island, does not have a canopy. There's no fire suppression to it. We felt it was a safety feature to add that at this time.
it's considered a best practice for the fueling operation. Just it's protects a little bit from, if there is a spill and there is rain, it protects a little bit this area, so you have a little more time to clean it up. Plus, it protects the pumping equipment from the elements and essentially, making this usable longer than if it was under the elements.
Thank you.
Kurt and Lorraine, any questions?
How close is the nearest resident on the east side?
So there's only one abutter, so we have the railroad tracks on one side, 95 on behind us, and then we have Elm Street, and then the one abutter down Elm Street. I think when I calculated out, we were over 250 feet away from with a tree buffer. So we're planning to keep it's at least 200 feet of that tree buffer in place. from the parking lot expansion, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay.
You've got a little
It's
bit more.
about 200, almost. On the
So 200
Exactly.
feet with 200 feet of buffer from the property line to where we're going to pave,
Okay.
and then whatever's left on their property itself to the house.
Thank you.
Kurt?
No questions. Is the Quonset hut coming down?
The Quonset hut's going to come down. The Quonset hut, we have a Conex box that has parts stored in it that leaks, that also has a compressor in it, so it's got electrical running to it that leaks. Those are both cold storage buildings, facilities that we've just outgrown the space, so.
Oh, I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see many of them left anymore.
No. For good reason.
Any other questions? Scott, you probably know more about this than Chris does, so.
Oh, no, I don't. No, we went over in detail, and it looks like this is the best application for what they're proposing. I think Chris and the Weston and Sampson did a perfect job with this. It's really a really nice design, and it's well needed. I mean, desperately needed. That DPW is antiquated, and it really needs to be upgraded. Because they maintain cars all the time, including ours. We have two vehicles in our fleet, and then there's Board of Assessors, everybody has a vehicle. So
Yeah, we currently maintain over 160 pieces of equipment. That's on and off road, and that doesn't include all the small stuff. That's not the chainsaws, some of the small lawnmowers. That's police vehicles, school buses, the DPW fleet. We do everything except for fire apparatus. Right now, the larger trucks, the salt trucks, the school buses, we can only lift them up as enough to get the tire off and change a tire. So when the crews are working, when the mechanics are working on a bus, they're on their backs on a creeper and they're rolling around underneath those things. The new space will have a floor lift, so they'll actually be able to work underneath the vehicle. Long term, it's going to be a big improvement for that crew.
How long will the project take?
We will have a bid in hand April 24th. We have our ballot vote, because it's being done as a debt exclusion, and then we also have town meeting approval. Pending those two things, we'll work on getting contracts finalized leading into July 1st, when the funding becomes available. I think we're looking at 12 to 18 months to get this in place.
And you're going to remain operational on site while this is going on?
Yeah, the one big challenge for us is the fuel island. That's one of the first things that needs to be done. So those tanks need to come out of the ground. The current fuel islands need to go away. We'll have to work on rebuilding those as quickly as possible, but we're probably 5 to 6 months without those fuel islands operational on site. So we're either going to the Shell station or somewhere else, or we're bringing in temporary tanks for that operation on a temporary basis, but we'll remain operational besides that.
In furtherance of what Chris mentioned, Article 13 on the town warrant deals with the funding for this project. So everything that's gone by so far relative to this is really just a sort of an introduction to what's going to happen at a town meeting. And without that, I guess there's no project, so.
Right.
So for everybody who's here, vote yes at town meeting. So any other questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, why don't I have a motion to close the public portion?
I move to close the public portion.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I want to handle this in two separate ways. One, as far as the special permits, and then as far as the variance. So we need to issue special permits and findings under section 5.3.1 and 5.3.4. The reason we have to issue special permits is because although the use is a permissible use, the structure is a non-conforming commercial structure, and that's because, again, the lot coverage currently exceeds 70%, and there is parking currently in the front yard. So what we need to do is to determine whether the reconstruction, extension, alteration, or structural change to the garage, whether it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in which the structure is located than is the existing nonconformity. So in other words, we're going to have an expanded garage. Is that nonconformity? And it'll be nonconforming again because there's going to be parking in the front yard and parking, and lot coverage in excess of 70%. Is that substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in which the facility is located than is the existing nonconformity? And I think because the expansion is really nominal in relation to the size of the property because of the use and what it means to the town, the lot coverage is actually improving. There's really no change in the use. There's no change in other than the fact that there is an expansion, there's really no change in the nonconformity. There's no new nonconformity, no increase of an existing nonconformity. So I think that it's clear to my mind that the criteria for a special permit have been satisfied, and again, the criteria for a finding has been satisfied.
I agree.
I agree too, 100%.
Eric, any comments?
I do not agree.
Kurt?
No, no comments.
Okay, so a motion to grant both special permits and findings.
I move that both special permits are granted with, did you say with findings?
With the finding that it's not substantially more
That,
detrimental.
the finding that it's not substantially detrimental.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? As far as the variance, as you can see, the property is somewhat triangular, with greater width on the central street portion of it, and then tapering down as you go further along on Elm Street. Because of the configuration and the shape of the property, I think that dictates where buildings are. It also dictates where the fuel island must be. There's certainly an advantage in having the canopy. That's one of the reasons why I was concerned about the fire suppression equipment on it. So I think that, to my mind, all the criteria for a variance are satisfied.
I agree.
Agree.
Okay.
Agree.
Agree.
Motion?
I move that we approve the variance as presented.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
All right.
So we'll draft something, we'll sign it. It's going to have to be filed in the Registry of Deeds.
Yep.
Got to give that to Scott when you're ready.
When it's recorded.
Sure.
Need the recording.
Yep.
And that can be submitted with the plans.
Okay. When's the town meeting?
Town meeting's the 13th?
May 13th.
May 13th.
All
Okay,
right.
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the vote is on the 6th. And then
Yeah. Previous Monday, yeah.
that'll be an improvement of that. It's kind of broken down with the site.
That would be really great.
Or at least watch them.
Okay, the time being 7:20. We have the continued appeal by J. Cooke Realty LLC pursuant to Section 10.2.2.1 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning, of a zoning enforcement decision dated February 22, 2023, from the Town of Foxborough Building Commissioner / zoning enforcement officer, stating unlawful storage at 24 East Belcher Road is a violation of Chapter 275 zoning, Table 3-1, Table of Uses, Use 3.1.6, D.4, junkyard, auto graveyard. Property is located in the Limited Industrial District and the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. So when we were here in January, we decided several things needed to be done. And one of which was that a list of items that was being removed from the property would be provided to the building commissioner by February 15th, and again, in advance of our meeting tonight. And I assume you've gotten nothing? And second was that site plan would be ready by our March meeting. And I assume, because Diana hasn't told me that anything has been filed, that nothing has been filed.
No.
Has anything been prepared? Where are you in that?
Bay Colony has prepared a survey of the property with some topo and some information that will be used ultimately when the filing is made for the site plan and special permit filing. That is underway but not yet complete. And among other things, Mr. Cooke is carefully thinking through what the ultimate use of the property would be and how he intends to use it. So we do not have the site plan. In terms of the list, I realized that the site walk we had recently, it was difficult to see the progress on the left side of the property, but he continues to remove things, compile things, put things in storage containers to get them off of the property. It is a massive and daunting task. We realize it's his responsibility, but he's doing his best to make progress while continuing to operate his business. Most recently, he's been helping another person who's in a tough spot with some equipment and materials that has occupied a tremendous amount of his time in addition to the regular operation of his business. So, it's a process, and it's ongoing, and he's sort of doing the best that he can. Each thing that he moves or touches needs a new home or needs to be scrapped, so it's not a straight linear process. Also, he can use and reuse and repair things that the rest of us have trouble seeing are repairable. That is part of the operation, especially on the right side of the property where the garage is. Having said that, he will need to completely clean up the left side of the property as part of his site plan and special permit, because there will likely be some grading as part of that. You've been to the site, there's sort of a bowl in the middle. To make that site more usable will require some grading, which will require removal of quite a bit of material. And, ultimately, that lot is probably going to be used as a sort of accessory to the automotive repair next door, and probably also will be seeking special permit as a contractor yard. After the site walk the other day, Jeff and I met with Bill Buckley to discuss the process, and, we're still really considering what Jeff Cooke wants to do there long-term, what's going to fit in with zoning, what permits and approvals he's going to need for that. That's
Go ahead and ask questions.
I mean, not a question, I guess a comment. I really was looking forward to having a list, at least one list of items, and that's disappointing to say the least. I guess one question would be, are there any new items on the property since January?
Yes, I would say that there are new trucks and trailers and equipment under repair, particularly on the right side. Some of that has been stored on the left side. You saw large containers and trailers that are on the left side as well. You know, it's a ongoing business, so things come in and things come out, you know, and it's sort of difficult on a day-to-day. It's not an inventoriable type of thing. But yes, a lot of stuff has gone out and some new stuff has come in. And that is probably, you know, essentially always going to be the case, depending on the ultimate use of the property. I mean, I really think that ultimately the best solution is to have a good use there and to have some good buffering, so it's simply less visible from the road.
That was my question, too. I understand it's an ongoing business, so there's going to be, obviously, stuff coming onto the property. Could you say whether or not there more stuff came on versus left the property, or vice versa? If you could.
Jeff's saying more stuff left. You know, so when you get into one of those piles of articles and those leave, and then you bring in a large 53-foot trailer, you know, by mass, there's more stuff on the property. More of the objectionable stuff is being removed, and more operational, repairable, and things like that is being brought on, repaired, and used. That's my understanding of it.
And the help that he's providing to this other person that's in need of help, is that involved bringing that person's materials onto the property?
Well, there are a couple of things that he's purchased for use in his business. The rest of the articles are largely being scrapped.
Okay.
So.
Questions or comments?
I don't have any questions.
You know, we did a site walk on March 12th, and my immediate, I guess I had two immediate impressions. Number one was that there has been some improvement on the left side of the property. Number two, there seems to be more stuff on the right side than the last time we were there. I suspect some of that is from the left side. But regardless, it just seemed to be, to my mind, more. We've been at this since, well, Scott's letter was February. You filed the appeal in March. We began the hearing in April. Our first site walk was in May. So we've been at this for almost a year now. There's been some improvement. I don't know if I want to use the word marginal, but it certainly hasn't been significant. Big question I have is what and when, if any? I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or what, but I think that's the question we have to get answers to. You had said at a prior meeting it would take a year. Now, we've been at this for 10 months. It's not going to be cleaned up in 2 more months to our satisfaction. And I know that Kurt has asked the question before, you know, what do we ultimately expect? You know, certainly not a pasture.
Right.
To my mind, certainly more organization. You know, if there were another building or other buildings on site, and a lot of the items that are strewn across the property, or that, at least as of our last site walk, were compacted on the right side of the property, were kept within a building, that might answer my questions, might answer my issues. It's not my property, it's not my money. So I don't know if that's something that's contemplated. When you talk about a contractor yard, I'm curious as to what you mean.
So I would say that is among the options that's being explored, but I am far from being able to assure you that the intent is to build a really large building to store things in. A contractor yard, and again, and it would be some combination of a contractor yard and sort of an accessory to the repair building on the right side. Not yet determined, but I do believe that ultimately there would be, at the very minimum, quite a bit of, trailers and equipment on the left side on a regraded site, likely still gravel, all not yet determined. There may be a small building, there may not be. It's really all, under consideration. The intent is over time to remove anything that is not usable in the business, to get rid of some of the excess tires and wheels and engines and stuff. And, when he gets into a big pile of that, almost every individual item can have its own issue or issues in terms of where it goes and how it goes and things like that. So he's making progress. It's slow progress. It's tough to set a timetable. We, would like to set a timetable. It is actually in his best interest and all of our best interest to do it. It's just a complicated, long-time project.
Jeff, maybe I misheard you. Did you say the intent is to construct the building?
May or may not be,
May not,
no,
yeah.
but it's not going to be like a huge
Yeah.
parking, facility. If there is, he hasn't even really determined, exactly what he's going to do.
I think that's probably, one of my biggest concerns, that we have been at this for almost a year, and that developing that concept, I would think, would have been a priority during this time, even given the difficulty of moving all of the stuff that's there. And so, it just concerns me as to where are we really going with this?
Well, he will be going to the planning board, and he will be undergoing site plan review and likely a special permit or special permits with the planning board. He's refining his approach to the use of the site. He's determining what he can use it for in that area, and he hasn't made final decisions yet. And I understand there's been quite a bit of time that's expired. And I consider it a priority and will continue to work on it.
Kurt, anything?
I mean, I just don't see any real sense of urgency. I don't see where this ends. When you say it's hard to set a timetable, I thought we set a timetable.
Actually, we've set several as far as wanting site
Exactly.
plan by.
Understood?
Eric, Kim?
I mean, I didn't have the benefit of the walkthrough initially, but definitely haven't seen the progress since the January walkthrough. So.
All right, let me do this. Any comments, questions from the public? Yes, sir. We missed you at our last meeting. Not really.
Bill Cook, 112 Spring Street. How long have you owned the property?
Hold on for a second.
Hold on a second.
Oh, wait. Oh, you need a mic?
Is
Is that on?
You want to use this one?
Yeah, maybe try this one. So when you know, we just turn the mic off when anyone wants to talk.
See what he says.
I mean, whatever you want to do,
Now we know, right?
would be amusing.
What's that?
Use this
It would be
one?
amusing to like, throw a little bit out there, but
You want to
See
sit
what
at
he
the
says.
table?
No, I'm good. Can you hear that?
it's probably gonna be the same old shit.
All right. How long have you owned the property?
That should be addressed to the chair.
How long has he owned the property?
How long has he owned the East Belcher property?
Yeah.
20 years? Over.
Around there.
Probably about
20 years of junk. We have a bylaw. No junkyards. We've been dealing with this for 20 years. At least I have, because I live down on Spring Street. What's happening is, the stuff that comes out of the left side of the property goes to the right side, or it goes down to his property on Spring Street, down near me. There's a big old dump truck that was up there, now it's down back of his house at 79 Spring Street. There's 2 dumpsters that have been sitting on 91 Spring Street for the whole winter. There was an excavator sitting there for the whole winter, never moved. Suddenly it's gone. He's great at deception, moving things around to make it look like he's got some progress going on. But there's actually no progress. So I don't know how long we have to keep dealing with this. I'm very concerned that they come in here with a story and nothing's being done. And it's the same thing every time we have a meeting. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting tired of it.
So if I may,
Commercial dumpsters, commercial containers.
Mr. Cook's concerns are,
Get a little bit closer to me.
Mr. Cook's concerns relate to other properties, and in that he surveils all of these properties, photographs and videotapes them on a daily or weekly basis, then I would assume he has some smoking gun proof to back up what he says. But in the meantime, we're saying, and Mr. Cook, without an E, is saying that he's not moving stuff from East Belcher to Spring Street, and there's no way those properties on Spring Street could fit all of this stuff anyway. And clearly, he's not trying to deceive anybody, because the property, he could have done a few things as part of a dog and pony show if he wanted to, show false progress, but he's trying to work on the underlying project. So the allegations that stuff is moving from East Belcher down to Spring Street is not true. And, I'd like to see photographic evidence of it.
Well,
I've given them plenty of photographs.
Let me say this. Again, Spring Street is in litigation, so there's nothing that we have any control over as far as that matter. Our issue is not what has happened in the 19 years prior to Scott's enforcement letter. It's what has been done and has not been done since that point in time. I know that there have been issues in the past, and I know that other building commissioners at some points did or didn't, address it.
Yep.
But when Scott issued an order in February of 2023, that put that matter before the 5 of us, or the 4 of us and then Eric, when he joined us. And that's what I'm concerned about, and that's what my 4 colleagues are concerned about, and that's what we need to address. And whether it's tonight or some other night, we've got to make a decision at some point in time.
Right, we keep extending time, give him time to move stuff around, and it never goes anywhere. Anything that he has moved, where has it gone? Has it gone in Foxborough, or has it gone out of town? The scrap.
Again, my concern is what's there,
Yeah,
okay?
well, it's not moving, so.
And my concern is what's there, and ideally it goes elsewhere.
Right,
And that's the issue that we have to deal with.
that's what I would like to see. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so what do we do? Well, why don't we do this? Let's close the public portion of the hearing and make a decision as to what we want to do.
Okay, I move that we close the public portion of the meeting.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? So I spoke with Scott yesterday about this, and, Scott used the phrase kicking the can down the road. If it was just one can, I'd say fine, but there's a lot of stuff there. And my patience is starting to wear thin. I'm concerned that if we do reach a determination tonight, that Mr. Cooke will appeal it, and then it's completely out of our hands. And there's really nothing that can be done by us during that interim period, or by Scott during that interim period. It's really at the mercy of the court and the court schedule. But the flip side of that is, I think we're all getting tired of this. And maybe having this in the hands of a judge and in the hands of an appointed master is the better way to handle it. Now, I also realize that if that were to happen, probably nothing will occur in the interim as far as site plan. So are we accomplishing anything by making a decision tonight? Are we accomplishing anything by continuing for another couple of months? My concern is that if we continue for a couple of months, we're going to be basically doing the same things we are doing tonight.
Do we have a realistic timeline for the site plan,
I don't have any,
for getting anything filed?
no, I don't think we do right now, no.
And even if something were filed within the next couple of months, it doesn't mean the planning board's going to make a decision right
Right,
away. It'll
yeah.
probably take a couple of months for them.
Sure.
I mean, typically, they take a couple of meetings, Diana, on site plan?
Depends on if engineering review is needed or not.
And special permit,
And a special permit?
yes.
So we might be talking a couple of months.
There's got to be a modification to the site plan that was issued in 1989, well, 1989. And there's also have to be a special permit, what Attorney Lovely just said. on-
Depending on the use.
Yeah, depending on the
Yes,
use.
right.
Contractor's yard.
Contractor yard special permit.
I just looked it up, it requires a special permit through the planning board, so.
So even if site plan was filed next month, conceivably, it wouldn't be till end of May, June.
It's usually 2 weeks notification, I mean, so you're looking at a month, at least 30 days, to even get the hearing started.
And then perhaps another month.
Correct.
So we would be talking, again, even if something was filed by April 1st, we're probably not talking until June, a decision at best.
Possibly.
So. So I know I'm going back and forth like I'm playing tennis on this thing.
Well, the
but-
thing is I think you made a good point. There's no realistic expectation that in 2 months anything's going to be different. And so what do we have to lose by just sending it to the courts?
A lot of money.
I mean, if we don't have any kind of authority or to really do anything.
Well, the only authority we really have is to continue what we're doing and hope that something will happen.
Yeah, but,
But as I said earlier, it's been marginal so far. So,
exactly.
I just don't have a great deal of confidence there's going to be anything significant.
Right, exactly.
Lorraine?
I would feel more inclined to hold off if we had a definite commitment that there is a plan to, bring it to the planning board, but since we don't, our hands are tied
Yeah,
to
a
do it,
list
to make
or
it, to
anything.
be effective in any way.
Yeah, exactly.
I had felt at one of our site walks that there had been improvement. This last one, it didn't feel, it felt different, that there hadn't been as much improvement. There had been in a previous one last week, was disappointing. And the other thing that I find that was the first thing I said was we had requested a list on February 15th, and we had requested another list on March 21st. Now, I understand that getting rid of giant things takes doing, time, and planning. I certainly understand that, and that takes time. But getting to list to us would be a way of showing good faith effort. And that didn't happen. Neither of those, both of those dates have now passed by. So I'm struggling to, if there had been some more effort in this, I know there has been effort, and that is, you can definitely see it when you're, when you're on the site. But, I don't know. I mean, asking for a list, 2 lists, that's not a lot to ask. And that, for me, is not a good sign whatsoever.
Just looking at my notes, at our September meeting, we had set a deadline for completion of March 21.
So we had agreed on a deadline.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't do a motion to require it, but that's what we were,
Both the parties agreed in good faith.
that's what we were pointing towards. And I think we had asked initially for site plan by September.
Right.
So, Eric?
I don't have anything further to add.
I'm not sure what this board is going to accomplish by pushing this a month or 2 months.
Yeah, I would agree with Kim on that.
Unfortunately, I don't want to be, I really don't want to be saying that. I would love all the ideals to happen right now. Things are considerably better in 2 months, and the site plan is moving forward, and there's a hearing date, or they've already had a hearing in front of the planning board. I mean, I'd love all of those ideals to have happened. But when, just as a common courtesy, asking for 2 lists, one in February and one in March, and that hasn't happened, I'm struggling.
Lorraine, anything else?
Nope.
All right, so let me suggest a motion, and then we can talk a little bit more about it if necessary. The motion would be to reverse the February 22, 2023 determination and order of Foxborough Building Commissioner Zoning Officer Scott Shippey as requested by the appeal of such matter by J. Cooke Realty, LLC. So to reverse it, we would have to say yes. To basically deny the appeal, we would be saying no. Okay? And I'm going to do that by a roll call vote. But I just want to make sure that what the consensus of the board is. My feeling is it's been a junkyard since we looked at it, and it still is. And I don't have a great deal of confidence that anything's going to correct itself appreciably within a foreseeable period of time. And as I said a few minutes ago, I'm losing patience and getting tired of knocking my head against the wall on this. Kim?
I agree.
Lorraine?
I agree. I think the board's been reasonable.
Kurt?
I agree.
And Eric?
Agree.
Okay, so again, the motion is to reverse the February 22, 2023 determination and order of Foxborough Building Commissioner / Zoning Officer Scott Shippey as requested by the appeal of such matter by J. Cooke Realty, LLC. A yes vote, I'm going to do this by roll call, a yes vote would be to reverse. In other words, to basically side with Mr. Cooke. A no vote would be to uphold the determination of Mr. Shippey that this is a junkyard. Okay? Kim?
No.
Lorraine?
No.
And Barney? No. So we're going to obviously write up a decision, sign it. As you know, you have the right to appeal. I fully expect that to happen. I wish it wouldn't. You know, I fully expect that to happen. If it does, notwithstanding the fact that the issues will be before the court, I would hope that some efforts would be to continue to remove items that should not be there and to address issues with the planning board. So notwithstanding the fact that we've made a determination and notwithstanding the fact that I fully expect there'll be an appeal, I would hope that there would be some effort to, to address the problems there in the interim. Okay?
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else?
I have one application for an oversized garage for next month, but I'm still waiting in a butters list, so it's filed with anybody else.
Okay, we also have, and I'm pretty sure Diana will get it within the next several days, a special permit. There's a building on South Street, the blue one around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
From Bay Colony. They're going to be expanding it?
Yes. I thought they were taking that building down.
No.
No, they
Well,
changed.
that was Joe Lynch's original idea, but
They have currently a three-bay garage, and I think they want to convert that into apartments. So I don't think, they'd be expanding the building per se, square footage-wise, but I don't know if the footprint's going to expand. I haven't seen any.
No, they had a informal in front of the planning board, so there would be no exterior changes. They would just be converting the former storage space into apartments. And they have to come here, it's more for the parking, because they're encroaching, they own the lot next door, but it's not on the lot where the parking needs to be, so they, something to do with that.
Yeah.
So because it's a non-conforming structure, it'll need a special permit from us. And Frank Spillane called me yesterday. He has to go before the design review board as well. He's going to try to do that before our meeting.
Is it a historic building?
Yeah,
It's
I
an
guess
old building.
There's a picture of it upstairs.
Yeah, it's been there for a
Pretty
while.
old,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in the Foxborough book.
It's
But it's
an
within the
old
design
building. It's
review.
over 100 years old.
Yeah, it's within the design
Over
review,
75.
Whatever
That's what it
parameters.
is. No, because they're not changing it.
They're not changing any of that, not doing any demolition, so it would not have to go through the historic
They just
commission.
changed the windows out or something in the whole building.
Yeah, they changed, they did. They've been updating the windows, they painted it.
It's-
They renovated all the apartments. They've been renting them. They said there's only 2 that are vacant right now.
It's not in a historic district.
How many
The
apartments?
historic district is
All
on
one
Baker
bedroom, so
Street.
I think there's
That would
9, and
require
they want to have
a
12.
finding by the historic commission for that. But the commission, I get them messed up.
Review.
It's very easy to confuse me. Very easy. But
The historic district is Baker Street.
the Baker Street goes, I think it goes all the way down to, I can't remember the road. It goes quite a bit ways down, but it covers several houses. That one is not in it. So they would need approval from that commission. This one will not need permission to change windows or keep the integrity but they have been doing that.
Yeah, but they do need approval from the design review board.
Yes, it is in the overlay district. Yep.
No, they're not changing it.
And did the old church sell next door to that?
The,
I know it's for sale, the
Yeah, I
stone
don't know.
church.
The Lutheran
I
church?
think it's sold.
The old Lutheran church?
I think it's sold. But
just
that's out of the
Yeah.
overlay.
That's just a single-family home now, so.
I think the overlay ends right at that corner.
So we'll have 2, assuming that they complete the application on the garage, and then, or at least 2, we got another week. And then ideally, everything will be settled as far as the Morse Street, we'll just have to modify, whatever we have to modify.
Do we know anything about the oil man?
Well, what Jeff told us last week was it's still supposed to go to trial.
Is it? Okay.
So we'll see. I haven't heard anything otherwise. So anything else? A motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yes?
Thank you.
Yes.